With the arrival of new hero, Land of Dawn is already shaking from all the buffs and nerfs. Not one, not two, but 30 plus heroes are getting adjusted with many more battlefield updates. So let's not wait anymore and get straight into it. Hi guys, Kazuki here, and in this video let's unpack all the goodies that came with patch note 2.1.66 in the original server. Let's start with the highlight of this patch, the new hero Soul Photographer Marcel. Marcel and his camera claymore are basically two souls in one body. And he is designed as an agile support who roams, controls space and sets up fights with photography style. His passive Platinum Snap gives him value even when he is not doing much. Claymore automatically snaps nearby enemy heroes, dealing true damage and grants a shield to Marcel and one ally. And Marcel's basic attack are different too. They skill with hybrid defense, can't crit, don't benefit from attack speed, and extra HP gets converted into hybrid defense. So you are building him tanky and utility heavy. Skill 1 Framed Movement creates a slow zone around Marcel, then detonates to deal AoE damage and immobilize enemies, perfect for setup. Skill 2 Tracking Shot gives him a movement speed boost and gets stronger when chasing enemies, and you can recast to dash. If skill 1 is active, Claymore stays at the original spot so you can reposition while still controlling an area. And his ultimate golden hour is the crazy part. After a short delay, Claymore puts everyone in the target area into stasis for 3 seconds, except Marcel. Enemies are immobilized and can't be damaged or healed by anyone other than Marcel, which can completely flip a team fight. If you want a full guide on him, then worry not, because we already have a video cooking. Just make sure you are subscribed. Alright, with the new hero out of the way, now we move into balance changes, and developers say the biggest highlights are Noveria, Obsidia and Claude. Let's start with Obsidia, because this is clearly aimed at her low pick rate on attack speed builds. They have built Bone Shard scale much harder with attack speed, and they have also buffed how much attack effects she inherits. The trade-off is they reduced some base damage so she doesn't become a late game monster for free. The quick version is Bone Shard speed now scales from 15 to 45 and attack speed increases shard speed way faster than before. At the same time, shard damage drops from 7% to 6% total physical attack. Her attack effect inheritance goes from 70% to 100% and her basic attack base damage drops from 80 to 70. So the build is stronger but more state driven, not draw based damage. Now Claude is a more of a fixed plus balance shift. They fixed an issue where his ultimate hits were missing at certain attack speed, and now the number of hits properly scales with attack speed. But to keep that from getting out of control, they reduced the attack effect ratio from 50% to 40%. So Claude becomes more consistent, but less abusive with attack effect stacking. Now Ixia gets nerfed again because her laning was too strong. They reduced her sustain against non-hero units, passive HP regen goes from 20 to 10, and then they also hit skill 1 hard. Damage goes from 75 to 300 down to 50 to 250, and the scaling drops from 80% to 70% total physical attack. So less lane bullying, weaker wave pressure and less comfort farming. Now moving to Eve, and this one is a heavy baseline adjustment. Her base HP and growth drop hard, her defenses are lowered and the slow value are reduced, so she can't lock down fights as easily. But to compensate, her passive shield becomes much stronger, scaling with level and magic power. Skill 2 now has a better cooldown late game, but the slow is weaker, pace slow drops to 20% and maximum slow drops to 40%. Her ultimate slow is also reduced to 40%, and they added quality of life changes like camera angle optimization and moving kill notification during the ultimate. So overall, less slow prison, more survivability through shield. Now Zushin gets a bit of a weird trait. Her growth states improved, but her early and mid-wave tier is reduced through skill 2 tuning. Hold damage is reduced, while release damage shifts higher late, so she becomes less oppressive early but still has a payoff later. Now Fasa gets her early and mid-burst pacing toned down. Skill 2 is no longer a flat 5 seconds cooldown, it becomes 6.5 down to 5. Early base damage is reduced and mana cost is higher. Ultimate base damage also drops So faster still scales, but early spam is more punishable. Now Novidia is listed as a major change, and this one is a mixed tuning pass. A base stage shifts slightly, skill 1 slow now ramps up over time, and her skill 2 gets late game damage improvements. But mana cost also becomes heavier compared to before. So she is being pushed into more deliberate casting, strong impact, but not free spam. Now Eudora gets an early and mid game uptime buff. The big change is skill 1 cooldown. It becomes 5 seconds at all levels, so she can fight and poke more often early. But mana costs are still higher than older Eudora, especially on skill 1 and skill 2, so she gets more uptime but still need mana discipline. Now God becomes more stable and more mobile. He gets better base defenses and movement speed. His passive becomes more level based and skill 1 becomes more spammable with cooldown improved to 8 to 6 seconds and mana cost reduced. But skill 1 damage and skill 2 damage scaling are reduced. So it's a shift toward consistent pressure rather than huge bursts. Now Luo Yi gets a damage redistributed too. Passive based damage is reduced, but skill 1 damage is increased for better wave clear. Skill 1 mana is improved and skill 2 becomes way easier to cast with lower mana cost and slightly better cooldown. So she becomes less free passive damage, more skill based pressure. Now Kagura gets a wave clear and early lane buff, but the ultimate gets toned down. Skill 1 damage goes up and mana cost goes down. Ultimate damage becomes 36 to 30 seconds, mana cost is reduced a lot, but both umbrella and no umbrella ultimate damage values are reduced. So she feels smoother and more active, but her ultimate burst is less insane. Now Valentina gets her early lane power shifted heavily into skill 1. Skill 1 damage is buffed strongly for wave clear, skill 2 base damage is reduced, and skill 2 mana cost becomes cheaper. So she plays more around skill 1 pressure and less around skill 2 chunking. Now Nana gets stronger late game skill 2 value. Her skill 1 becomes more expensive and slightly slower, but skill 2 cooldown improves to 12 to 9 seconds. Damage goes up a lot and the magic defense reduction becomes flat. So Nana scales better into late fights. Now Cyclops is adjusted for sustained casting. Skill 1 cooldown is reduced but early damage is lower. And skill 2 scaling structure changes with a higher magic bonus. So less early bullying, more stable damage pattern. Now Aurora gets more control uptime, but mana becomes more punishing. Skill 2 cooldown improves to 12 to 8 seconds, but skill 1 mana is higher and ultimate mana is higher too. So you get more frequent setups, but you can't waste spell. After that, there are a lot of Mage baseline alignment changes, but the important standouts are Audit becomes tankier and faster with much cheaper mana cost, and her ultimate shield and ultimate damage are reduced. So she is less all-in burst, more consistent. Zask gets better base states and cheaper skill 3 mana, but his ultimate becomes less spammable and more expensive. Vale gets better ultimate uptime and cheaper mana, but ultimate base damage is slightly reduced. Paramis gets more tanky scaling but higher mana cost, and his ultimate cooldown becomes slower early and better late. Xavier gets lower base HP but better defenses, and with the better late game skill 2 cooldown but higher mana cost on skill 1. Valir gets smoother spell flow with better skill 1 charge and mana cost. Chang'e, Selena and Lilia are mainly mana economy changes. Selena becomes more expensive, Lilia becomes more mana friendly. Next is Lunox. Her base HP dropped from 2621 to 2440, but her HP growth increased to 165. This means she is slightly weaker in early game, but scales better as the match goes on. Her base physical defense also increased from 15 to 18 and the defense growth went to 4. Making her a bit more stable later in the game. Kimi also got adjusted. Her base HP decreased from 2450 to 2380, but HP growth jumped from 117.5 to 145, so she becomes stronger in the late game. However, her base physical defense dropped from 22 to 17, and defense growth also slightly reduced. So overall, Kimi becomes a bit squishier and will need better positioning. Moving on to Kadita. Her base HP increased from 2370 to 2440, giving her a slightly stronger early game. But her movement speed was reduced from 255 to 250, which may make her engages a little slower. Next is Sicilian. His base HP increased from 2335 to 2380, but his physical defense dropped from 18 to 17 and defense growth slightly decreased as well. His movement speed also went down from 255 to 250, which could make positioning a bit harder for this late game mage. Then we have Zetian. Her base HP dropped from 2550 to 2380, but HP growth increased from 135 to 155, meaning she scales better into late game. However, her skill mana cost increased from 50 to 75 to 60 to 85, making her early poke a bit more expensive. Now, outside of mages, a few extra changes. Phobius gets stronger late game, his maximum HP magic damage scaling improves, and his shield scaling improves as well. Hilda gets a visual upgrade so you can clearly see when her enhanced basic attack is active. Glow is nerfed, damage reduction per stick drops from 4% to 3%, so he is less frustrating. Freya gets nerfed, her ultimate HP regen per basic attack drops from 60 to 120 to 40 to 80. Saber gets a fix from skill 1 piercing damage against Turtle and Lord. And Yi Shin gets an adjustment. Enhanced basic attack now benefits from attack speed, but his ultimate duration is reduced from 15 seconds to 10 seconds, meaning you need to cast it closer and more carefully for value. Now before we continue, a quick reminder to everyone. We are just 3000 subs away from reaching the first phase of the giveaway, which means 25 epic skins will be rolling out to 25 winners. Don't sleep on this one. Hit the subscribe button, like the video and drop a comment. Once we reach our milestone, we will immediately start the giveaway. Moving on to battlefield adjustments. First, glowing one becomes more damage focused and slightly cheaper. Magic power goes from 50 to 60, HP bonus drops 400 to 300 and price goes 2150 to 2050 to align with the Sea Halberd. Next, Ice Queen won trades damage for stronger control. Magic power drops 75 to 60, but the slow staking becomes much more consistent. The internal cooldown per stake goes from 1 second to 0.4 seconds. So less raw power, way more reliable slowing. Now the big one, Enchanted Talisman. Developers said 10% CDR from talents. Buying Talisman often wastes about 5% extra CDR, so they reduced CDR and shifted power into states that actually matter. Magic power jumps 50 to 75, maximum HP 250 to 300, CDR drops 20% to 15%, and the price increases 1870 to 2070. The build path is also adjusted to a smoother route using Tome of Evil plus Magic Necklace plus Magic Wand. And speaking of it, Tome of Evil gets tuned for smoother mana growth. Magic power 35 to 30, CDR 8% to 10%, mana regen 4 to 2, and the build path changes from Mystery Codex to Magic Necklace. To balance these mage item shifts, Holy Crystal gets nerfed. Magic power 185 to 165. Then a few small mage item buff. Feather of Heaven 55 to 60, Concentrated Energy 70 to 75, and Stallium Sight 70 to 75. So overall mage power is being spread across more items instead of one must buy. Now on the defensive side, Dominance Eyes gets a strong anti-heal update. Fortress Shield trigger ranges drops 5 to 3.5 unit. But Life Bend becomes an aura. It now reduces HP regen of all enemies within 3.5 unit. Oracle gets a small nerf, amplification 30% to 25%, and the Guardian Helmet gets buffed, regen from excess damage 20% to 30%, better against burst. Now emblems. Fighter emblem adaptive attack drops 22 to 16, and Marksman emblem swaps 5% life steal into 5% adaptive penetration, so it's a less sustain and more damage through defense. There's also a lane pacing change. Ranged minion base HP drops 1288 to 1188, helping mid lane wave clear. And finally, scoreboard quality of life. You can tap team goal to ping goal difference. Tap a hero's bounty to ping bounty, and the system will auto warn if you are behind and enemy has a high bounty target. Alright, now moving into system adjustment. Now the bigger update here is the battle loading revamp. They have optimized the whole loading interface and updated the art style, so the screen looks fresher and also has more useful feature before the match begins. The first new feature is a loading chat system. You can talk to teammates during loading to discuss tactics and send battle emotes that everyone can see. On high performance devices, you can even use interactive effects on allies and enemies during loading. They also added customizable honor badges, so you can pick multiple badges to display and show off more than just one achievement. Then there's the Supreme Sacred Statue Portrait display upgrade. If you're on a Supreme Sacred Statue, you can enable portrait rotation in preparation, and your statue portrait can alternate with your hero skin portrait during loading. On top of that, the entire loading screen gets a new interface style with improved visuals. And for newer players, they improved the beginner tips system. Now the loading tips can adapt based on your hero and your play habits, giving more relevant suggestions instead of generic advice. One important restriction though, this full loading optimization is only available on devices with more than 2 GB of RAM to keep things running smoothly. Now moving on, the MOBA 5v5 Rising Open also gets a new season starting on March 9 at server time with honorary titles and diamond rewards. They also added season and division display to the bracket, so it's easier to track progress. And finally, a couple small quality of life changes. Friends who are in practice mode will now show an in practice online status, and they have improved some interaction experiences for seasonal achievements. So there you have it folks, the full breakdown of original patch note 2.1.62. Which hero are you planning to play after this patch? And what's your goal for this new season? Mine is Epic 1 LOL. Anyway, leave your answer in the comment section. So that will be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Keep supporting Kazuki Official.